I feel like most times most business analysts feel like, oh, stakeholders have given this requirement, so I believe they are okay with it. That is not enough. It should be validated. They should confirm they are okay with it, and there should be proper sign off and approval on these requirements before any development or any process improvements starts up.
Welcome to the Inside Business Analysis podcast. I'm your host, Tanner Jacobs, and I am here today with Deborah. Deborah, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm fine. Thank you, Thando.
Yeah, no, thank you for coming on to the podcast. I really appreciate your time and also your availability and willingness to share with us your experience today.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me over, and I hope I can share a bit of my experience and you can learn a
Of
thing or
course.
two. Yeah.
Of course. No, absolutely. Absolutely. So, could you just do a brief introduction in terms of, who you are and what do you do?
Okay. My name is Deborah. I'm Sodiya, and say I've been a business analyst for over 4 years now, including my professional developments in my master's degree in operations management. And I came into business analysis by mentorship. I had gotten on this role where I had gotten myself involved in other things, including business analysis, and I was mentored to go for a training, basically. And through the training, I was able to get myself equipped with the right skill sets, and all the needed requirements to start up as a business analyst. And yeah, I'll say I found the journey very, very interesting, and I look forward to growing in this field of business analysis. Thank you.
Awesome. What were you doing before business analysis, before you started doing the training?
I was working as a technical support analyst.
Okay.
Yes, so and over time, I think the role evolved, and of course, getting into other things, understanding requirements, and all these things. And I think it was one of the people I was working with that said, "Oh, do you know that you are doing the work of a business analyst already, even on this role?" And I'm like, "What is that?" And of course, I went to do my research, and I was put onto a training, and yeah, that was how I got officially into the field of business analysis.
Got
Yeah.
you. So yeah, you are already in IT doing business analysis activities without realizing it,
Yes,
which
yes, yes. That was
which
it.
is interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So with this mentorship slash coaching training that you went through, how long was that roughly?
It was more of like I went through two trainings basically. I did one like a 3 day crash course training. Then I also did a 3 months training. Yeah, so it was a combination of these two that really helped me. And of course, personal development, studying. I got access to the CBAB book guide, Babcock, sorry, for the International Institute of Business Analysis. So I
Hmm.
had that copy. I was doing a copy during the training, and just going through it and reading and studying it was also part of like what helped me to get into the field officially.
Awesome. And how long did it take you to then land your first BA job after going through that?
I would say almost immediately because, like I said, when you're already doing something and you don't even understand you were doing it. So
Yeah.
I feel like I was already into it, but I just needed to actually understand the concepts of what I was doing. So during the training, I got to understand that, oh, so I was actually gathering requirements. I was actually doing the visual modeling by creating architectures to explain to clients what we're trying to develop. So it was just me trying to understand the concept and be more grounded, and also helping me to know what I am doing part time. So I think it just really helped me to develop my skills and be more confident. And of course, being able to put up a new application for like a role that was fully business analysis instead of like transferable skills within the role, if that makes sense.
No, it does. It does.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes it takes that journey of somebody opening your eyes to realize that yes, you've been doing business analysis. So to your point, maybe you didn't call them requirements when you were doing them,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
that's essentially what you were doing.
Yes.
And then you may not have called it a process model when you were doing it, but
Yeah,
that's what you did. So
exactly.
that's exactly the same with me. I kind of took somebody else saying, "You're kind of already doing business analysis here,"
Yeah,
so yeah, that's exciting.
yeah.
Okay, so how many? So that was 4 years ago. Was that
Yeah,
when you made
four
that
years.
switch?
Yeah, that was 2019. Yeah.
Mm. Wow.
2019.
Do you know what? That's actually pretty impressive, to be honest, to be able to switch, not quite industries, but to really switch kind of a career effectively
Yeah,
in the space of 3 months or just over 3 months is
yeah.
that's quite an impressive feat. So yeah, kudos to you for that.
Thank you.
Um, and I'm sure you don't regret that now. No?
No, I didn't regret it because I was also looking out for something that I could be, maybe not being a programmer or being a developer, but I could be like in the middle. So I think
Yeah.
that the transition phase was just really like the answer I was looking for the kind of career path I wanted. So I don't have to program, but I understand these technical terms. I can also bridge the gap. So it was really what I was looking for in a career path, looking forward from where I was, but I didn't know that there was something that existed like that already. So everything just worked together at the same time for me and really placed me in that field. Yeah.
Mm, beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah.
So, Deborah, you've come on today to discuss with us a specific topic, which is around tips for business analysts when they're
Yeah.
starting off on a new project,
Yes.
which for me is actually quite an interesting topic, but also one that I feel can be overlooked in
Yeah.
many different reasons.
Yeah.
But I'm going to let you share your expertise with us, right? So, First and foremost, I'm a BA. I've been given a new project.
Yeah.
What is the very, very first thing that I should do?
Wow. Yeah. In starting up a new project as a business analyst, I think the first thing to understand is the project's objective. Also, depending on the company lingua and the how the words they use to describe this in different companies it differs. It can be called a project goal. It can be called business outcome. It can be a business case. I think the first thing is to understand the clear understanding of what that is before even thinking of getting to understand who are the stakeholders and all those things. Like if as a business analyst, you sit down and review these documents, review the process, have conversations just to make sure that you understand the overall context and what the deliverables should be at the end of the day. In having this understanding, it helps to give a beautiful perspective to start up the project. And I think after that, it would be good to just of course, set up a kickoff meeting to gain deeper insight. After just sitting on your own and trying to understand the project context, objective, the goals, the meeting can go on. You can set up the meeting and going forward, then identify all the stakeholders who will be involved in the project, who should be informed about the project. Basically, also working together with the project managers to understand the timeline, to understand the resources available for the project, and yeah, also ensuring that all of this process, even at the very beginning, is well documented because I feel at this stage it's easier for business analysts to just overlook it. Oh, it's just the beginning of the project. I don't need to document anything. This stage is documentation is very important at this stage. Ensuring you are putting all these documents together because as soon as the project kicks off, it would be very helpful. So you can always refer back to the original project objective, to the original understanding of what the project's goal should basically be. Thank you.
Right. So I was taking notes there,
Okay.
trying to kind of capture what you were saying. And what
Okay.
I've got, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I've got four key things here, right? So the first thing is review some sort of business case or a project initiation document or something
Yeah.
along those lines, whatever that's
Yeah.
called in your organization.
Yes.
And after that, you mentioned effectively meeting with stakeholders and again
Yeah.
getting their perspectives on the project itself.
Yes.
And then after that, it's specifically going to the project manager and asking questions around the methodology, the timelines, and the
Yeah.
plan, and all the rest of it.
Yes.
And then after that, you mentioned around kind of reading, but also almost creating your own document repository or collection of documents
Yes.
related to this project that you're going to refer back to as the project goes along.
Yes.
It sounds like this particular phase or portion of of this particular place is actually you're effectively saying don't do business analysis just yet, just actually just do a bit of research.
Yes. That's correct.
That's what I'm hearing. So let's go back to the first step of the business case and the PID and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
Um, So let's just assume that as a business, I wasn't involved in the creation of those things.
Okay.
Am I reading that? Am I just reading that purely from the perspective of understanding what's on there, or am I also trying to, I guess, unpack holes within that and trying to find questions and all the rest of it? Am I analyzing the document, or am I simply just taking it at face value?
It's I think it's going to involve the both parts, understanding, just having like reading it like a layman, basically. Like, okay, let me just read this document. What does it with an external person who is not involved in this project, just like business analyst is coming on the project, would they be able to understand what has been written? I think if that is not clear enough, that is where also there might be a little bit of restructuring of what the project's objectives should be, such that it is clear and concise, and anyone who is coming can understand that this is what the goal of the project is. And going forward, the business analysis phase can now start, and in which questions can be asked that, okay, what problem are we trying to solve? What process are we trying to improve? What benefits would these projects offer to us? What are the key deliverables? Like, at what are the deliverables that would be delivered that will know that this project is a success? So I think it's just a combination of everything, so that we are not missing out any important information, and at both high level and at both a open-ended level, everyone can understand what the project's goal is overall.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a very good point.
Yeah,
Effectively, it sounds like the main point that you're trying to do is just to understand what the project is trying to deliver here,
yeah,
and then once you've understood that, you can then use that to drive to drive your work effectively.
conversations. Yeah,
So the second bit about meeting with stakeholders and setting up kickoff meetings and one to ones and all the rest of it, is it in the same spirit again of just understanding the lay of the land, or what kind of conversations are you having there?
I think at the very beginning, I think it's also to understand, and whatever thing we are doing at that point is also input into the project. It's more of like an input into other phases of the project. So if there is need for an initial kickoff meeting just for understanding, I think it's important at the early stage of the project rather than at the middle when they are missing requirements, or at the middle of the project where some things are not clear enough. So if at every stage of the project there needs to be like a update meeting or a review meeting set up, it was also it's very important even at the beginning of the project to set up these meetings to have a clearer understanding, as these the outcomes of these meetings would also be inputs to other stages of the project.
Mm. Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. And then the meeting with the PM, that makes sense. Obviously, we need to know the
Yeah,
methodology and the
yeah,
timelines and what the project manager has in mind as well,
yeah.
and things like that. And then the final point, actually, I love that final point, and I personally, honestly, wouldn't have thought about it, at least not deliberately, which is to collate the documents that exist already and save them somewhere as a repository. If
Yeah,
if if let's say it's a SharePoint site or some sort of OneDrive folder somewhere
yeah,
that you can refer back to, and I think that's actually quite critical because most of the times maybe we only think of saving what we've done, but
yeah,
not what's been done previously in
yeah,
a also easily accessible central location, which I find a
yeah,
very powerful point actually.
yeah.
I like that. Here's a scenario for you, and I've been in this position before, and I'm wondering what you do.
Okay.
I'm on a new project, and as you've said, read the business case or PID or something similar to that to tell you about the project and the
Yeah,
objectives and what we're trying to deliver.
yeah.
But actually, all I've been given is three extremely vague sentences.
Hmm. Wow.
It just says something like, I don't know, some corporate language around we're looking to deliver some sort of solution to do some sort of thing in some sort of area, but nothing really detailed as a business case or even a project initiation document to have objectives and details around what the project actually looks to do. It's very, very, it sounds more like an idea than a project
Hmm.
at this stage. But obviously,
Yeah,
the business is calling it a project, so
yeah,
it's being treated as one.
yeah.
Um, what would you do in that position?
Um, Firstly, I'll say I feel like no business analyst wants to be in this scenario because it feels like it makes like the implementation harder or the work harder. But at every stage of the project, this can always come up, and in this kind of scenario, what would I do? I think the first thing also is whoever has brought the idea, whoever has the idea, it would be a good time to interact with them and meet up with them to get a better understanding of the project goals. And like I would always say, it's not just to have a conversation, maybe set up a meeting. Everything should be documented immediately because like you said, it's just three ideas. I want us to deliver this. I want this to be done. I want that to be done. And there is no context to it. There's no business case to it. There is no like thorough documentation presenting the project goals. Um, Initiate like conversations with the key stakeholders who have brought these ideas, and begin to ask them open-ended questions to help them understand their goals, because sometimes and working on projects, sometimes clients, even like if it's within the company, they don't understand. They have an idea, and that is why, as a business analyst, we are there to like guide them. You can ask them that, okay, what challenge are you trying to fix? What do you think at the end of this project should be the deliverables? I think by asking them these questions, we're able to guide them. Can also ask them that, okay, what business problem are you trying to solve, basically? And in asking them these questions, I think it can give them an idea of what exactly they want. And with that, as a business analyst, you can begin to create the business case for the project or the project's overall objective. At this point, it is also good to understand the scope of the project and not just assume that this is what they want. We can't work with assumptions while working. As business analysts, we need to understand the entire scope, and by also asking open-ended questions, we are able to define the project scope and keep everything in check. Yeah, basically, I think that is also all. And in this process, everything should be well documented in a clear and concise way, so that anyone who picks it up from where you have stopped is also able to understand what should be delivered for the project. So I think that is what I would do if I'm in this scenario, basically. Yeah.
No, that's a very good answer. That's a very, very
Yeah.
good approach as well. Particularly around the scope element.
Yeah.
That's always a hard thing to nail down sometimes,
Yeah.
particularly in those unclear or vague scenarios or
Yeah.
unknowns. It is hard to kind of know where the problem starts and finishes, and so
Yeah.
that's a strong point there. Another scenario that I've been in. I've been in a few scenarios. Another scenarios that I've been in is where a project is it's new to me because I'm like the new BA on the project, but
Yeah.
actually the project has been going on for some time already. Let's just say it's maybe in the design phase or it's in some sort of or implementation phase or something like that, right? It's already
Yeah.
gone past the quote unquote initiation
Yeah.
piece. What do you do then? So the project is not new, but you're new to the project.
Okay. Um. Yeah. This is a very interesting question to ask, because I feel like at one point or the other, we always find ourselves when we are just brought on, oh, come and join this project. So you have to relieve somebody who is going on leave, and you have to actually get on the job and get the job moving. I think the
Yeah.
first thing to request for all the documentation that's already available on such projects, and review them so that it can guide in asking the right questions. Because it's easier to want to start asking questions: what are we doing? What are we not doing? But I think if, as a business analyst, you can take time to just have a quick review through the documentations up to the design phase, then it would help to understand the overall scope of the project. Next up, I would say, is to engage with the team, and display relevant stakeholders, and maybe set up a meeting to understand and ensure that the current state of the project is what they also have an understanding of which the current state of the project should be. I don't know if that makes sense. Yeah, because sometimes it can be a disconnect, and it is before you get on and start doing anything, it's okay to be sure that everyone is on the same page. Then as a business analyst, you can continue from where someone has stopped or continue in the project. And next up, I would say, is I always encourage the use of a traceability matrix to ensure that the requirement um, is aligning with the current phase of the project. And if that can be confirmed, I think it's always a good indicator to go ahead with the project. And if it is not in sync, It's a good time to review the projects just before anything else is done. And of course, if there have been any changes, additions to the project or any review done to the initial project objective and scope, to be good to ensure that a proper change management process was followed just before one gets on the project and continue, so that it doesn't get to another stage or the testing stage and they realize that, oh, we didn't request for this, oh, we are not sure we requested for this. If all of this can be checked and you are sure that they are fine, then the business analyst can continue from where the project has stopped, basically. Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, no. And that point that you that point that you made about, I guess, the project is on one phase on paper, but just sense checking that in
Yeah,
people's minds is it's actually a very, very strong point.
yeah,
Um, Sometimes people, it's not that I guess it's not that they disagree with the phase, but maybe they just disagree with maybe the pace sometimes,
yeah,
or just the focus and all the rest of it. So yeah,
yeah,
it's very, very critical to just ensure that everyone's on the same page about
yeah,
where the project is, and also their understanding of what the project is delivering.
yeah.
That's a big part, um, particularly with the key stakeholders on the project. I mean, you would always assume, but as BAs, we don't make us
We
what we
don't
don't
assume. No.
exactly. We don't assume,
Never.
or we don't make decisions on assumptions. So it's always just, use the "I'm new to the project" excuse to get away with asking what's maybe called a silly question. So
Yeah,
100% on that part.
yeah.
What are some of the common mistakes that you think BAs could easily make when they are either assigned a new project or starting a new project?
Hmm. Yeah, thank you for the question. One of the common mistakes business analysts make when starting a new project, I feel like there are lots of them, and I'll try and touch on some of them quickly. I'll say the first one is keeping um, stakeholders, key stakeholders in the process. It's easy to ignore some stakeholders. So, stakeholder analysis is a very important part of business analysis as much as requirements elicitation is. Being able to identify and engage all the stakeholders in the project. Sometimes some stakeholders are just to be informed and not necessarily involved in the project or be involved in the development stage or any stage of the project, but they should be informed. And the moment such key stakeholders are neglected at the beginning, it makes the ending of the project or the closure stage of the project to be more difficult, because basically you can't be bringing to them a solution and they are not aware this was being developed. So um, proper stakeholder analysis is something most business analysts neglect. And like I've mentioned earlier, I've talked about documentation. I feel like everything a business analyst does should be documented. Every change, every conversation should be well documented. Everything should go through proper documentation, just so that there is an opportunity to have a referral where you can always refer to during the project. And next up is most times business analysts are not able to manage scope creep. Um, and it is good to take proactive measures against scope creep by ensuring that every stage of the project aligns with the original requirements, and also ensuring that every stage of the project is being validated and signed off, particularly the requirements documentation, ensuring that before any development stage starts, it has been approved and it has been signed off. Definitely, um, I feel like most times most business analysts feel like, oh, the stakeholders have given this requirement, so I believe they are okay with it. That is not enough. It should be validated. They should confirm they are okay with it, and there should be proper sign off and approval on these requirements before any development or any process improvements starts up for the project. Thank you.
Very, very strong mistakes. There, I've done all four of them.
Wow.
I have. Yes, I have. I have missed stakeholders on
Oh,
a project for various different reasons. One, they were not the loudest, so
oh
easy to
yeah,
forget.
definitely. Always easy.
Yeah, and or two, they were in some very, a sort of like a small part of the business that you can
Yeah,
easy to miss them. So I've
yeah.
done that. Um, I also struggle to document everything.
No.
And if I've understood correctly, your intention with this is what you're really talking about specifically is like almost like a decision log.
Yes.
um,
Yeah.
to document the decisions made, right?
Yes, yes, definitely. Like all these documentations just depends on how the company works. And particularly if you're a new BA in a place, you can always create a template for this, just ensuring that every stage, like you said, decision log should be documented. Yes, we made this change, we did this, we added this, we removed this, and the time, the dates should
Yeah.
always, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
That's what I
yeah,
mean by
no,
documentation.
and no, absolutely, and I've made that mistake of not documenting decisions, then going on, some steering group call or whatever 3 months later, and someone asking the question, "Why did we do that?" And I'm like, "Well, because it was decided." And then like, "Well, who decided it?" And I'm just like, I have to think back 3 months back, and I'm just like, I can't remember, to be honest.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've been in that position before. Scope creep, God, what BA hasn't struggled with scope creep? It is.
Lots.
Yeah, that is requires no explanation, to be honest. And then validate and sign off.
Yeah,
Do you know what's so interesting about this? Yeah, I think there's almost I know we just spoke about assumptions and not making assumptions, but
yeah,
there is this assumption that we probably make sometimes, that if I speak to a stakeholder or a group of stakeholders
yeah.
and they seem to verbally agree to some degree the requirement, that I take that as a sign off.
No.
Yeah. So can you just touch on how do you then make sure that you validate and sign off? What's your process on that?
um I will just share like my experiences working like in two different places, and
Yeah.
how this has been done. um I would say there are always maybe and after identifying definitely the key stakeholders for this project. There will always be like a documentation that just summarizes, sometimes maybe not the full like requirements documentation, but it can just be like a sign of documentation template where everyone, you can just create a place for name, signature, do you agree to this, and there'll be like a referral on that documentation to the original requirements documentation. That might be a lot of pages, definitely. Just ensuring that they are okay with it. It can be their manager signing off, it can be the head of the department for that business case or something signing off. But all relevant stakeholders should be on that documentation and they should all sign off. And one thing I've realized is during this sign off, you see lots of people coming up with different things like, oh, I didn't agree to this, I didn't agree to that, even though these have been verbally agreed on, which is why the process of signing off is always like very, very important. Um, the other way, also worked on validating and signing off of requirements, is also coming up, setting up like a workshop where everyone agrees and maybe just signs it electronically at that point. But there must be a proper like sign off with date, time, and the name of the representative from the department, from the development team, from the project management team, who are happy for the project to continue and can go into development phase or process improvement phase, basically. So I think it's just basically templates. There is no one way around it. If you are the new BA in the company, definitely you might be the first person to set this up. But if not, I believe that most organizations have a way this is properly done and signed off.
You would think that. You would think that. But yeah, it's not always the case. But not 100% in the sense of, I think fundamentally this is about making sure that the stakeholders who have the power
Yeah,
in that PI grid, they have the power to influence the direction of the project. They should
yeah,
sign off on the requirements almost,
yeah,
and say, "Yep, this is exactly what we envisioned or what we want out of
yeah,
this project as a deliverable." So, very good point on
yeah.
that part. Um, so, another scenario that I'm also thinking about here is people who are starting a new project,
Okay,
but then they have an extra layer of complication, so to speak, which is that they are starting a new project in a new organization
okay,
or in a new team or new department.
okay.
Um, so, what would you say to that group of people? Are there any specific things that maybe they should do because they're in a new environment, a new company, that that you haven't touched on yet?
Okay, for someone who is starting up in a new company, particularly I'll say new BAs or maybe graduates coming out of uni, I think I learned everything while on the job. Well, I understood that life after uni is different, and maybe sometimes doing my internships, I kind of saw it, but internship is just for like 6 months, 3 months, and we go. I didn't have the opportunity to work for such a long time, but over the years, one thing I've realized is every company has different company culture and process and how things are done. It will surprise you that you feel like, oh, it's a corporate company, the same industry, but the company culture can be very different and no assumptions even as an employee. You don't want to assume this is how things are done. So it would be good to understand the company culture and processes. And in cases where these processes are not well documented or anything, it is good to ask questions. I feel like in understanding the company's culture, the HR is always like your best friend, definitely to understand the company's culture, the organization's culture, basically. And of course, you have to adapt to it. You're already working there, and if you intend to like make progress, you need to adapt to the company culture and blend yourself in. Next thing I would say is networking is very, very important for people who can be shy and reserved. I feel like this might affect them because they want to keep to themselves, but in the workplace, one needs to learn how to actually build relationship with your colleagues, with your manager, even with people in other departments. I know a lot of people might focus more on their departments. I don't think business analysts will do that because you do that. You need to interact with people across other departments. So networking is a skill that everyone should learn basically, and build relationships with teammates, with your colleagues, with managers, with supervisors basically, and also seek for mentorship. I feel like in my career path, one thing that has always helped me is mentorship. Along the line, I've always been mentored. Maybe I was picked up and like, oh, sometimes it's not like a particular agreement. Oh, I want you to be my mentor, be my mentee. I just found myself really being mentored by my seniors, even within the organizations, outside the organizations. I've met people on LinkedIn who are mentoring. Maybe they have worked in the organization before. So all those kind of guidance are very, very important. And of course, one can't stop learning because you've gotten a new role or you're in a new role or you're in a new area or you've done a certification, you've done a training. It doesn't stop there. So I will encourage to continuously learn, invest in professional development, in professional courses, and yeah, that's for now. That's the little I can give.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, thank you for that. Definitely, that would all of those things put together would effectively help you to understand the lay of the new environment that you're in,
yeah,
um, and that mentor bit that you mentioned then
yeah,
helps you to kind of do it at a faster pace. You know, you kind of
yes,
skip the learnings yourself. Just kind of follow the structure that somebody else has done. They give you the actual knowledge that they have got the knowledge that you don't have. So you follow their
yeah,
advice,
yeah,
and that just speeds up your process. So 100% agree with all of that.
yeah.
So Deborah, it has been such a pleasure talking to you today. I've really enjoyed our conversation.
Thank you.
Um, I have two questions before we close off today's
Okay,
discussion.
okay,
So the first question is for those who are listening to you and they really like what you're doing and they want to connect with you in some way, shape, or form, and maybe even ask you about the trainings that you've done or whatever, something that's helped you to get into business analysis and whatnot.
yeah.
Where can they find you and how should they be able to reach you?
I would say the best place to find me would be on LinkedIn. Deborah Sodiya, that's my name on LinkedIn. Yeah. Yes. And from LinkedIn we can connect and maybe connect to other places. But LinkedIn would be the best place to connect with me for now.
Of course. I
Yeah.
will add your LinkedIn profile URL or link into the show notes. So for those who are interested, just check out the show notes description and you'll see the link to Deborah's LinkedIn profile.
Okay.
And actually, two questions. I know I said one question, but two questions. So two more questions. So first question is, um, based on what we spoke about today, which is
Yeah.
about, BA starting on a new project, XYZ, do you have any closing remarks, any final words, any parting words around something that you want to really impress upon the listeners today for them to really think about in this topic?
One thing I would say is in whatever you're doing, it's just to have this confidence in what you're doing, because sometimes the moment you're showing that you're not confident enough, people can read in between the lines and it can just make them push you around, particularly in the scope creep. Yes, so being confident in your skills and knowing that you are learning every day, you're developing your skills every day, I think is one thing that I'm still even learning it myself to be confident in everything I'm doing here, basically, and also encourage networking a lot. I encourage building, as much as we want to be mentored, we also be happy to mentor other people, the other people around you. Sometimes we also learn by teaching people. So the more you teach, the more you even realize that you are getting better at what you do. And of course, connect to a community. Don't be an island. If you're a new BA, if you are a senior BA, help us, the growing BAs. And yeah, I think that would just be my advice and my encouraging words for everyone out there. Thank you.
Yes, confidence, confidence, confidence. I will echo that as well. I genuinely believe that a big part of our jobs is simply to be confident.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's that. So I love that. And the final question is, why do you love being a business analyst?
Yeah, I love being a business analyst because it's a role that has made me to develop my skill in being a subject matter expert in different things, like in SQL, in lots of like technical things that I would never have thought I would know about. In my last role in the medicals, like I know a lot of medicals and healthcare clinical trials thing due to my role. So I think it's a role that exposes you to different area. You can always work in different industries. You can apply your skills in anywhere you find yourself. So yeah, that's what I love about it. And also you get to meet and interact with different people and develop your people skills, develop your communication skills, develop your analytical skills that are even yeah, just all these skills. I love the fact that my role helps me to develop these things every time. Every time I get on the job, I see myself developing these skills and even becoming better at it. Yeah, that's what I love about being a business analyst.
Love that, and I love that too. Um, So, yeah, Deborah, it has been such a pleasure. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your expertise with us on today's podcast. I've really enjoyed our conversation, and I hope our listeners have as well. But I've also learned something new about, starting a new project. Even myself, having, my years of experience, your conversation has highlighted some areas that I probably need to revisit and ensure that I'm doing well. So I really thank you for that. Yeah, I've
Thank
really
you.
enjoyed it today.
Thank you for having me too. So glad to be here.